Welcome back. We are now sitting together for the next presentation, and this is about methodologies for supporting capabilities and competencies on ESD, Education for Sustainable Development. In this presentation actually I'll show you a list of different methodologies that you can use within classrooms or also in other groups of people when you think or sit together to apply methodologies that support to create competences for sustainable development. Remember, competences for sustainable development are as such to work interdisciplinary, to think interdisciplinary, to have a holistic view on issues, to think about future and the past and also the present, so in intergenerational and intragenerational aspects. So all these are competences that we need to have as teachers and that we need to like to communicate to our students. So in this presentation we are looking into methodologies how to create those competences. Principles for teaching ESD, again, competences are here interdisciplinary, holistic approach, inquiry-based learning also, which is looking into special topics or special challenges that we'd like to solute. Problem-oriented working, participatory and interactive teaching approach, and also application-oriented learning and teaching. So now on the next slides we actually have a list of different methodologies, and I would not go into depth of each of those methodologies, but just point out a few maybe and show you what they are about. So we start with role plays and simulations. Role plays and simulations actually provide the opportunities for the lecturers to gain an in-depth understanding of another person's perspective and to emphasize with others. So in role games people jump into positions of different other people, as like an elderly people might jump into the role of a youth and see the world in the few eyes of a youth guy or girl. And so this role play help us understand different points of values, perspectives and so on. Another list of methodologies we can find on this map here. It's about group discussion, group works, stimulus activities, debates, or also mental mapping. In the next few slides we'll go really into depth of mental mapping. I'll explain this methodology more close. In mental maps, learners draw mental maps on sustainability challenges in the region or in the neighborhood or whatever challenge we tackle. Next slide of methodologies, and again I just point them out here in very short. It's about the critical incidents where learners are given an example and asked what they would do, what they could do and what they should do. So to tackle them with different situations. Case studies, I think we all know about case studies where we point out different cases and stories. Case studies enable students to investigate issues that affect the local area, for example. You can also have case studies on the tackle issues of the development agenda, development cooperation. We can also have case studies how fishermen might work together facing the challenge of large fisheries fishing in the same sea and so on. So case studies point out situations, realistic situations, and show us how to react or with what different situations we can tackle with. Reflexive accounts, critical reading and writing, also problem-based learning are further methodologies here. Then on the fourth slide here we have again three different challenges. Fieldwork and outdoor learning, as the name says, to go outside, have experience-based learning also with the people in the environments and learn on issues that we can really touch and see and try out. Storytelling, besides mental maps, I will go into more depth of storytelling. And e-learning tools are virtual opportunities to get in touch, for example, also with people from different continents, far distance learning opportunities. In e-learning, for example, also e-learning is very common in the Philippines or also in Canada, where you have school classes that are very remote, far away from any urban conglomeration. So via e-learning you can connect students actually with teachers that are far away and provide them also with the opportunity, provide the capability to learn from those people, learn from each other, learn from different cultures, interact interdisciplinary and so on. Now we go into more depth actually of mental maps and storytelling. And we can try out those two different methodologies especially. Mental maps are the basis for spatial behavior. So spatial behavior is the behavior how we interact within a geography. These maps are subjective representations of the surrounding living. Subjective is the impression that one has by him or herself by an environment. And each environment affects maybe different people. We like different colors. Some like big houses, some like big and modern glass buildings, some like more the old historical buildings and so on. So it's a subjective, individual perception of the environment that we bring down on mental maps and draw this by individuals and hence including personal interests, emotions, knowledge, background and the experience of the people themselves. Also the experience means that it depends on the experience where and how people have lived in different geographies and how then they therefore perceive these environments they have interacted with. What does those mental maps actually bring us? They show us the perception and the viewpoint of different learners and people. Learners draw those mental maps on sustainability issues, opportunities in their regions or neighborhoods, for example. So we get to know about what pictures different people have in their minds when thinking about the Nile River, for example. Some see the Nile River as the source for life and might draw lots of green fields beside and might draw lots of animals beside, and people beside, so as a source for life. Some people might also see the dirt that is within the river and might focus more on this. So it's really different how the perception of people are. And you can find out this perception by drawing those impressions of the people. The other methodology is about storytelling. Stories combine us our whole life. We grow up with stories. When we are children, our parents tell us stories, or relatives or brothers. We hear stories in our schools. We tell each other stories. Maybe we lie a little bit because we'd like to tell something about wrong. But it's all stories that were within those stories we have a certain goal what to tell with those, right? And stories have often a background of a message behind that we can achieve and can tell somebody with those stories. They foster systemic and creative thinking by that, because stories create this creative thinking. You don't watch a television show with a story, but you create your own picture. Telling a story about an eagle, and only by the eagle, one person might imagine this eagle within the mountains, another person might imagine this eagle within the desert. Completely different pictures around that improve the creativity of the people and build the stories behind also. Complex issues might be packed in a story as life experiences and emotions are included, and hence complex aspects can be easier understood and memorized by students. One story might be, for example, that in development cooperation, it is better to give the fisherman the angle to go fishing and explain him how to angle their own fish instead of giving the fisherman the fish or the people the fish, right? So that's a story. And of course, behind the story there's a certain sense. Another story would be that in course of to give equal and fair assessment of some lecture, the teacher might say, okay, to assess you all equally, I'd like to ask you to climb on the tree. But what the teacher might not reflect is that in front of them there is sitting a monkey and an elephant and a giraffe and an ant and so on, and they all have different skills. So what does this story again tell us, right? So of course the monkey can easily climb up, but for the elephant it might be different. But it's all equal in terms of the assessment because it's the same question for all of them. So we can reflect those stories, think about those stories, create our creativity and so on. Going into this now, and you might have now also the opportunity to sit together in smaller groups or to again do this by your own, depending if you're sitting alone in front of the screen or in smaller groups. And so build groups of 3 to 4 people or do it alone. Together draw a mental map of sustainability aspects within your region or your neighborhood. So think about where you are living. Are you living in a city or are you living in a remote rural area or in a village, wherever? And think about this and draw it down really on a white sheet of paper with different colors how you imagine or remember this region. And out of this actually there might emerge a picture of this region that is just unique for yourself, because for you, you have your special places within this region that you like or don't like, and you would draw it into it. And it would emerge the picture of yourself, that how you perceive and see this region you're living in. Another groups would go and create a story of your mental map also and write it down. So take a specific sustainability aspect of this and write down this story. So this is, sorry, not another group, but followed up within the group of mental mapping. And yeah, and finally have these presentations and exchange your experiences you have had with creating those mental maps, and then also stories made out of those mental maps. Here in this slide, finally, you can see just a few impressions how those mental maps might look like. So the first on the upper left side is a school that somebody showed where he or she perceived how this ideal school might also look like, or a school look like where he or she grew up. And it's a mental map showing, okay, the cars were quite dominant in the front street, right? So it might give the impression also that the cars were loud around of it, but the buildings were colorful, so this also kept into mind of the people who were drawing this. So it's a mental map that points out certain aspects of what was keeping and remembering the person. Another mental map on the upper right corner shows the Nile River and Egypt and certain points, or it shows the whole Egypt, and shows, of course, the Nile River as a central aspect within the geography of the Nile River. So thank you very much for your attention on this. This was therefore the presentation on different methodologies that might improve and open up opportunities to build capacities of people and for sustainable development by different methodologies to learn to interact interdisciplinary, and especially with mental mapping and storytelling, jump into the point of view of other people by seeing their perceptions. Thank you very much. See you again.